Hello, everybody. Justin Halverson here. Got a great episode for you today. I sat down with Anthony Barst of JP Morgan. Anthony is a Spartan alumni, has a bachelor's in finance from the Eli Broad College of Business at Michigan State, and is a CFA charter holder. Great conversation today, so sit tight and enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MSU WMA podcast. We are here with Anthony Barst of JP Morgan. Anthony, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
So what we're trying to figure out here is why a Spartan would want to become a financial advisor. So could you first tell us a little bit about yourself? Did you always want to go into financial services?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a fellow MSU alumni as well. When I first got to college, I was a pre-law major. So I was that for about a year and a half, and then did an internship after my sophomore year in wealth management and absolutely fell in love with it. Just the client interaction, markets, all of the things that encompass kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So after that, I became pretty dead set on that being my goal, and started with JP Morgan in the summer of 2010, full-time in 2011. So went through the full-time analyst program, where you basically spend 3 years in somewhat of an apprenticeship model with a senior advisor on the team, and you help them take care of their book of clients, things like meeting prep, client engagement, some things like account opening, working with our internal partners. But the whole goal of the process is to really understand and learn the business from the ground up, and after the analyst program, be able to be a outward focused advisor in our associate program. So I went through the associate program, focused a little bit more on the investment side of the business. I think that's probably where my comfort zone was, and what really got me to the office every day was learning about markets and talking about markets. So I went through that program and started building my book of clients, and then a few years ago got promoted to vice president, which is where I'm at currently, and have a book of clients that I work with and help manage the investment portfolios that their families have with us at JP Morgan.
That's awesome. I do want to ask you here and learn a little bit more about the analyst program. But before we get into that, do you mind actually talking about maybe your internship? So was that with JP Morgan? And then like a second part to that would be like, what did you like about it? And then were there any classes at Michigan State that made you, reinforce this idea that you wanted to go into the investment space?
So my first internship was not with JP Morgan. The second wealth management internship I did was with JP Morgan. The thing that I really liked about my JP Morgan internship was the fact that you were doing a lot of the work that full-time analysts do. And, the goal of the internship program is to get you set up to be functioning as a full-time analyst at the end of your 10-week program. So that was very insightful for me, and I was able to glean a lot of good things about JP Morgan that I liked and wanted to return full time. In terms of classes at MSU, I was a finance major, so took all of your kind of finance curriculum. The one thing we didn't have back then was the wealth management specialization, which I think is quite honestly awesome and great for you guys to have that focus early on. It probably gives you a leg up relative to the competition in terms of, understanding the business and B, a lot of the thought process that we have when we work with clients. But the class that I would say probably was most impactful for me, and it might seem a little bit different, is I took a few communications classes, which I think are vital. Through the analyst program, you're in an apprenticeship model of sorts where you're not going to a ton of client meetings and things like that, but you're learning the business. Once you get beyond that, you're much more outwardly focused and going on meetings and calling clients a lot more and being much more active in the relationship. So being able to effectively communicate with them, and I think that was huge for me.
That's so great to hear. I know, yeah, I'm a finance major myself, and a lot of the focus in the business college is on those technical skills, which is great. You do need those, but you have to be an effective communicator if you're going to sit in front of clients, right? So that's awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
Do you mind telling us then a little bit about what designations you have? So we've been speaking about investment. So, well, I guess a little background too is, we're in the CFP program, Certified Financial Planning. So what designations do you have, and how have they helped you?
So I am a CFA charter holder. I did and probably will get my CFP at some point. I think it's an invaluable program. But to kind of explain, I guess, a little bit of the difference in the CFA program, it's a little bit more focused on investment specific type things. I kind of knew that that's where my specialization was going to be and where I wanted to focus my career. So, it dives a little bit more in depth on strictly the investment side of the business, learning things about portfolio management, equities, fixed income, alternative investments, a lot of things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis and trying to help clients achieve their goals and objectives.
So it sounds like, like you were mentioning, CFA is more focused on the portfolio side, where CFP is not as investment focused, something like that.
Yeah, from my understanding, I think the CFP is more broad, kind of relationship management and planning focused, which quite honestly is invaluable. A lot of people in our office are CFPs as well. It's just with my kind of focus on the investment side, I just thought that was a better path for me to go first, but ultimately would like to get my CFP as well.
That's awesome. I mean, markets are complex, investments are complex, but so is retirement planning and estate planning, right? So that's got to know
Absolutely
all the big things. So that's awesome. So switching gears a little bit here, do you mind telling us a little bit about your day-to-day life as an advisor at JP Morgan? So I think a lot of people know JP Morgan Chase, maybe the bank side of it. So can you tell us a little bit, what is an advisor at JP Morgan? Like, does your job end when the bank closes on the weekends?
No. So the job definitely doesn't end when the bank closes. Basically, our role is to act as a family's chief investment officer. So we're trying to be their family office essentially and provide them advice around kind of our core competencies, which are things as basic as banking and traditional lending, things like investments where I specialize on and focus on, but also, some of the longer term wealth planning aspects of the business. We have some specialists on our team that focus on trusts and estates, as well as, longer term wealth transfer strategies to help reduce families' taxes over time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that because, like we keep saying it, people need the holistic approach, right? Yeah, to be like a chief investment officer for a family. It's an interesting concept. How do you guys?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I guess I was just going to say, one more thing there is, I think the way that we think about it is it's very hard for one person to be able to understand all of these different disciplines at a deep level. So, I think that's why we have kind of the specialized approach where we surround our clients with, different type of specialists to help facilitate conversations and make sure that we're giving them the best service possible.
Fantastic. It sounds like a team-oriented approach to me. Do you guys work on a team, and like how is that structured? So if how have you as the investment, I guess, expert on the team, how are you positioned?
Yeah, so essentially you can kind of think of it as there's a few different players that we surround clients with. So a banker is typically considered like the quarterback of the relationship. They maintain a close relationship with clients and bring in us specialists when there's need or opportunity to talk about different disciplines. So, I'm on the investment side as an investment specialist, and, I partner with oftentimes bankers to, talk more in depth about their goals and objectives and try and build portfolios to help achieve what they're trying to achieve over time. The same can be said about our lending advisor who gets involved when there's, a complex lending need or a discussion around any type of borrowing that they might have. And then we have a trust and estates officer, as well as a wealth advisor who kind of help with some of the longer term estate planning items that may come up as families try and transition wealth efficiently over time.
You spoke a little bit about the analyst program. So how
Yeah.
do young advisors, do they come in strictly in the investment side, or do they come in all these different specialties like you were just mentioning?
So typically you come in as a generalist. So you're kind of working with a senior banker, and you're working on their book of clients, right? So if they have a need to bring in an investment specialist, the analyst is very involved there. They sit on, all of our internal calls and, really try and learn all the different disciplines. And, typically by the end of your 3 years in our analyst program, you have a sense of which kind of path you want to take longer term for your career. For me, I was involved on the investment side a little bit earlier because that's kind of I knew that's where I wanted to focus on over time. But certainly, analysts have the ability to kind of generalize over the course of the 3-year program. And then as you move into the associate program, that's typically when you start to try and focus a little bit more on some areas that interest you.
That's so great to hear. Giving everybody an opportunity to see the different lanes to go into. I know I personally didn't know what I wanted to go into until I got into my senior year of college. So it's great that you guys offer that. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this then. Do you see any significant changes that have happened to you guys in this remote environment? So has it been difficult maybe to bring on new clients and new analysts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly this environment has been, I think, challenging for everyone, right? Especially us in a relationship business and a people business, right? I mean, a lot of what we do on a normal in a normal year is we're out meeting with clients and talking about their family's goals and objectives and revisiting those, and talking about how their relationship with the private bank is positioned going forward and things like that. So it's definitely been challenging, not being able to do that and get with clients as efficiently. We've tried to adopt the Zoom, a lot more Zoom conversations and things like that. But I think one of the other things you do miss is the collaboration that you get being in the office with a lot of our colleagues. I would say we have a pretty close-knit team. And while we have, Zoom calls that we all get on and talk about different things that are of importance for clients. You do lose a little bit of that natural teamwork that happens when we're all in the office together. So it's been tough, but I think it's been tough for everybody, and we're doing the best we can. And I think, clients definitely understand that, things aren't ideal, and that's kind of how we have to go about things right now. So.
Yeah, can't fight it, unfortunately. So, do you think that you mentioned Zoom calls, do you think there's maybe any big changes moving forward that are going to affect financial advising and wealth management since COVID-19? Any things that won't be the same?
One thing I probably should have mentioned before, but I think is a benefit almost of the COVID environment, is we've gotten a lot more access to our asset class teams in New York. So typically, with in a normal year, we'd have what our chief economist or something like that fly out to Michigan and do an event in Michigan, and that may happen once or twice a year. Able to leverage the technology and utilize that a lot more to be more engaged with our asset class leaders in New York, and get clients on more of the interesting calls and thought pieces that come from our teams in New York. So I do think that's been one benefit, and I think I've really really enjoyed as well, getting more access to some of the portfolio managers and things like that.
That's very cool to hear. It's, I can totally, to your point, to your example, me as a student, I'm sitting here in a Zoom call with you today. Like, who knows if all of this would have happened, how possible that is. So it's interesting how many more people are comfortable in being able to do that. So that's good to hear. There's still opportunity.
Absolutely.
So do you have any advice, Anthony, then, for maybe any recent graduates or college students who are looking to get into the industry, somebody at the Michigan State level?
Yeah. I guess a couple things that I would say, number one, be naturally curious about everything you come across, whether it be, learning new things about markets, learning about, people. This is a relationship business. So ultimately, building deep relationships with a diverse group of individuals is a great thing to have. And also I would say, reading a ton. I still spend a lot of my time reading and learning. I think that's one of the great things about this industry and being an advisor is markets are always changing, and advice around that is always changing. So, those two things I think are crucial. To give you a couple concrete examples, whether it be, reading the Wall Street Journal, reading Bloomberg, listening to podcasts. Admittedly, I was probably late on the shift to podcasts, but there's a ton of great knowledge out there. And, I think just being able to soak up as much information as possible, in college gives you a huge leg up over the competition. And, for you guys as well in the wealth management program, that's invaluable experience that I never got. And, I think probably sets you guys up for great success going forward.
That's so great to hear. I know any students listening, we all get, Michigan State students, we get a free subscription to the Wall Street Journal. So I know I take advantage of that, and the New York Times as well. So I don't personally read that one, but it's another great resource. Quick question. As
yeah, the only other thing I'd add there is, a lot of the textbook stuff that you go over, doesn't necessarily apply to what's going on in the real world. So, for me, I probably, when I was in your position, I probably learned a lot more reading the Wall Street Journal and reading Bloomberg and reading CNBC than I did through the traditional textbook route. But from my perspective, it's just because it was more applicable to what's going on in the real world today. So,
Yeah. Do you have, what are your, I guess, let me ask you this. What is your maybe 1-2 podcasts that you're listening to every week that might help students out?
yeah. So there's a couple good ones that I listen to. The CNBC Squawk Pod is one that just kind of takes the top couple, the top few best segments from CNBC that morning and plays it. And then there's one from Stock Twits, which is interesting, and just kind of gives you a market color for the day, and some of the different names that most people are talking about, and you guys would probably be most interested in. So,
what's that second one called? Stock Twits?
Stock Twits. Yep, it's actually an app, but they've come out with a podcast as well.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to check those out. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. Last thing here, I just want to open the floor up to you. Is there anything else you might want to say to any students or anybody who's thinking about breaking into this for a career path?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I would say, you have a desire to continually learn. And this is a great role to do that. You're constantly learning, and your days are never the same. Things are changing, clients are changing, and it's a great career path for someone that wants something exciting and new every day.
Awesome. Anthony Barst, thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. This is Vincent Pacillo, producer of the MSU WMA podcast, where we are inspiring and educating the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at MSU WMA and msuwma.com.